heartbreaking human tragedy unfolds. Death, destruction, and debris. Silence in the city, gut-wrenching. Images of suffering, hope, and redemption.
Despite the inclement weather, rescue workers are working virtually round the clock.
Gaurav Sawant, live from Quake epicenter.
Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from the 60 Para Field Hospital of the Indian Army here in the Hatay province of Turkey. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As of now, the death toll in that devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria has crossed 15,000, and unfortunately, as more debris and rubble are removed, when more bodies emerge, the death toll is set to rise. But in this death toll, there is also this war to save lives that's on. Doctors, rescue workers, the common man on the street, everybody here in Turkey, in fact from across the world, Indian Army teams, NDRF teams, relief teams from across the world, they're desperately trying to race against time to save lives. I bring you this ground report from the Hatay province.
Over 15,000 dead. Thousands more injured. And millions left homeless. These numbers unfortunately continue to climb up as rescue operations continue. India Today's Gaurav Sawant is at Hatay, one of the worst affected areas in Turkey. The only Indian journalist reporting first-hand on the rescue efforts.
Of course, magnitude of the crisis is so bad here that people are now having to fend for themselves. Some houses that do remain intact are serving as a base for others to live in. And like in this place, there is makeshift effort. Bread that may have been donated by neighbors, a makeshift kitchen here that's been made, and in a way this is like a community kitchen for these people. Effort, relief in some instances from helicopter being delivered. Some material that people have been able to get, from their homes, if they're able to retrieve some blankets. Otherwise, nothing remains intact.
Without a roof over their heads and amid freezing temperatures, several families were seen living in their cars, their homes reduced to dust.
There are some vehicles, people are actually surviving in their vehicle. There's no other place to stay, but a smile remains intact on this young boy's face who's been able to eat something. Let's try. So they actually live in this car for the past several days. There's no other place to stay.
Residents are now hoping for help from the international community as they are left without food, water, and even warm clothes. They've lost all of their belongings.
Each image here in Hatay more heartbreaking than the other, and we are at the epicenter of the quake. With me is Hussein, and Hussein, the destruction is terrible all around.
Очень terrible. My name is Hussein. It's Hatay очень terrible. I think 1,000 people has died. You can see all his half people. Really it's so bad, Hatay. Hatay is so bad. I needed help. Please help. Thank you, Indian people, for helping. Thank you, Indian people.
Meanwhile, several international rescue teams who are in Turkey to aid in relief operations have been assigned specific quake regions by authorities.
We took 21 person live.
Alive?
Yes, alive person. 58 apartments.
There were 58 apartments here in this building.
Here. So we will be very careful. we must be careful.
I wish you all the best.
We
sir.
heard some no voice. We will work this area, this building.
It's a race against time for the rescuers who are working tirelessly for days to save as many lives as they can.
You have multiple teams working round the clock. Those big machines, what they've done is they've drilled a hole in the concrete slab. Oxygen, water, food. It's being put inside, it's being thrown inside in an attempt that somebody will be able to respond. A lot of relatives go up and shout out the names of their loved ones. The aim is to be able to save as many lives as possible. With cameraman Kripal Singh at Hatay, Turkey, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. The stories of death and devastation are heartbreaking. Here in Hatay, you can hear these ambulances virtually round the clock because this is the effort to save lives. But then there are also those heartbreaking stories of people, when they remove the rubble, they find their loved ones, from a young child to old parents. And that is what makes life extremely, extremely difficult. Here in the Hatay province, multiple buildings, they just collapsed like a house of cards. And unfortunately, removing the debris, removing the rubble is easier said than done. Relatives, they look through the debris, trying to find at least some trace of their loved ones. I bring you this ground report. It's a desperate race against time at this location in Hatay as rescue workers grapple. The team that you see just behind me with ropes, they actually tied a rope onto a concrete slab and tried to go down because the information is that at least 50 to 100 people may still be trapped in the rubble here. Authorities refuse to confirm that number, but that's the number we are getting from the rescue workers. Some sounds, some voices can be heard in this debris. You see a lot of smoke because this building had caught fire as that earthquake shook this area, and this was a multi-storied building with a large number of apartments. By some accounts, it's a cluster of buildings together with over 50 apartments, and people were stuck inside. Just a short while back, that image that you see on the right, which is extremely heartbreaking, one body has been recovered. This father was part of the rescue operation because he wanted to help locate his son who was trapped inside. The son's mortal remains there next to their car. The father just waiting there. There are other relatives who are still inside, and that is why he refuses to go. The family standing right behind, waiting by that rubble in an effort to get some information of their loved ones. As you notice, more relatives are now going up. I'll request camera person Kripal Singh to come this side. See, these are relatives that are going up because they say that their loved ones will respond to their voices, and that is why every few minutes somebody goes up, shouts out a name of their loved one. They come, we'll try and get closer to the rubble, though it's extremely dangerous, but we will try and get closer to get you up to speed. Now, this is where they shout out the name of their relatives and hope that someone will hear something and respond, and that is where rescue effort will start. It's a concrete block. As you can look around, these are several floors that just collapsed. This, as of now, is a race against time to save lives. With cameraman Kripal Singh in Hatay, Turkey, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. You hear sirens all across, and we are stuck in a traffic jam for several hours now in Turkey. Just look around. That's an ambulance that's stranded. That's another ambulance that's stranded. That's a fire engine that's stranded. So bad is the situation that several vehicles are now no longer on the road, but they are now down. People are driving in the drain area also, and we are on one of the side roads. We've been stuck for several hours here. Again, just look around. That's an ambulance there that's stuck. That's a fire engine that's stuck. That's another emergency vehicle that's stuck. And just look behind you. Again, these are several emergency vehicles, including an ambulance that's stuck. On either side, all you see are vehicles stranded. Now, this is the situation here in and around Hatay in Turkey, because a lot of effort is being made for emergency vehicles and food aid and reconstruction workers, rescue workers, emergency workers. Look, these are emergency and rescue workers. They are now walking towards the area to be able to help people. So bad is the situation because people have been stuck for several hours. As have we been. We've been stuck for several hours here. We don't know. We cannot go forward. We cannot go back. Look, this gentleman just behind me. Several vehicles just stuck on the road. And this perhaps symbolizes the problem that Turkey is facing right now after that devastating earthquake that's claimed by some accounts over 15,000 lives in Turkey and in Syria. With cameraman Kripal Singh in Turkey, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. There are several Indian Army personnel who are deployed here. So it's a 99-member field hospital team with 12 doctors. And with me is Colonel Yadveer Singh. Colonel Yadveer Singh is the commanding officer of this hospital. Colonel Singh, what can you tell us about the infrastructure that you've been able to set up here?
Okay. We came here as a level 2 facility, approximately 30-bedded hospital. We have all our specialists, surgical specialists, medical specialists, orthopedic surgeons, anesthetists, and we can set up an intensive care unit also. So we came here basically prepared for this disaster relief. So we are accordingly prepared. We are a 99-member team from 60 Para Field Hospital, and Indian Army was quick enough to deploy us in time. So we reached Adani day before yesterday. Overnight we drove down and reached yesterday morning. And over a period of 2 days we have seen many casualties, and most of them are fractures. They have been buried under the rubble for more than 3 days. So they were dehydrated and broken bones and sometimes seriously debilitated. But they have been taken care of, and we are at our job.
Thank you very much, sir. So if you look around, this is where you have a team of doctors who are on standby to look after patients. And if I just show you around the hospital right now, this is where medicines are being stocked up. Especially for this senior citizens, children, immediate medicines. That's the reception of the hospital. So any patient who comes in, any of the emergency vehicles, they bring in the patients here. This actually is a school, and this school has been converted into a field hospital. So the moment patients are brought in, they're treated here, and after that, should they require, there's an X-ray facility, we are told at this place. There's a CT scan facility, but after providing immediate care at the field hospital, if required, they're then referred to a bigger hospital in Adana or in other parts of Turkey. With cameraman Kripal Singh at the Iskenderun Indian Army Field Hospital in Turkey, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. 6-year-old Nasreen is seen as a miracle child. She's actually a symbol of hope here at the field hospital, and her treatment is going on right now at this hospital. Look at that big smile on her face. I mean, she was buried in the debris for close to 3 days, and still she's smiling. With me is Major Beena Tiwari and the anesthetist doctor who have been treating her. Major Tiwari, Doctor, what can you tell us about young Nasreen?
Yashreen was brought to us by the rescue team today at 10:00 hours, and she was not stable. There was crush injury on her left foot, and she was seen by our anesthetists and our orthopedicians who are there with us. She was taken care of very well. Now presently she is stable. She's smiling, you can see.
Which is actually quite a miracle. I mean, look at the big smile on her face, despite being buried in that rubble for 3 days. What was her condition when she was brought in, sir?
Yes, she was there for 3 days, and first of all, she she's a very brave kid, as you can see. And when she was brought to us, she was initially in a very bad condition. So first we had to resuscitate her. We had to take IV access, which was obviously very difficult after 3 days of not having food, water, anything. And we secured the access and given the fluid resuscitation, stabilized the patient. And then again, she was having crush injury also, which was again very bad. And then we got a minor surgical procedure conducted under the anesthesia regional block, and which was successful. And you can see she's perfectly fine now and stable as of now.
What about her family? Do we know anything about her family, and are you able to communicate with her?
Like we have learned in last I'll say 24 hours, we have learned few Turkish words, so we are just able to communicate with that. Whatever I found that there were 5 members in her family. They were all under the debris, and out of 5, 2, her and her mother, were taken out today. Her mother is still en route to the hospital, and rest 3, unfortunately, they are still, people are searching for them. So that is all that we know about the family status. We have one of the relatives with us, so who is the one who is taking care of her right now.
How is Nasreen coping?
She's a very cooperative child, I'll say, and she is very brave. She has not shown any signs of shock of the last 72 hours that she has gone through. So she's otherwise stable.
Positive.
Very positive.
Very positive attitude she's having, and brave girl.
She is indeed a very brave girl, and doctor, because communication would be a problem, were you able to talk to her? What do we know?
Can you repeat it again,
So
please?
what have you been able to speak to Nasreen? Have you spoken?
Okay, I can. He knows Turkish. When I ask about the patient, about how do you feel about the problems, and he says he is good enough. He don't have any problem right now. He's good.
So she's good. So perhaps that's a positive attitude that's seeing her through this crisis. And in this hospital, she's actually someone that everyone is talking about, because she's somebody who inspires hope. With cameraman Kripal Singh at the 60 Parafield Hospital at Iskenderun, Turkey, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. As information about the magnitude of the crisis went worldwide, rescue teams from across the world arrived in Turkey. Many teams arrived in Istanbul, then to Adana, then to Gaziantep, and then other parts of Turkey. And they've spread out, in some instances waiting for directions from Turkish authorities. In some instances, locals themselves are taking rescue teams in their vehicles to various locations and trying to get them to help remove the debris and rescue people from under the debris. It's a race against time. The effort is to find life in the rubble. Otherwise, all that people are finding in most instances is death. But the effort even now remains to find people alive in the debris, and then the task begins of reconstruction. That, of course, will take a very long time. As of now, across Turkey and in parts of Syria, the reports that we are getting, people are just trying to remove the rubble and find people who are trapped, because according to some reports, there are thousands who are still missing and unaccounted for. We bring you this report.
A 2-year-old child and her mother were rescued from under rubble in Haiti. It was more than 36 hours. White Helmet Rescue Team kept singing and talking to this little girl trapped under the debris of what was once her home, as they kept cleaning the path to pull her out. In Idlib of Syria, Sham was lucky to survive for the miraculous efforts of the rescue team. But not everyone was this lucky. In Haiti, Abdul Ali Muani was lying trapped under the rubble beside his wife's lifeless body.
Sıradan adamları boşalta çıkartmamız lazım. Başka türlü olmuyor çünkü onun altında bir tane daha kız var. Hanım var öyle. Ben onu görmemiştim. Hanım var. İşte ben size diyordum da orada 3 tane var ya. Abi. Adam işte.
3 days after the earthquake shook the ground and his house came tumbling down like a pack of cards, Moaini survived, but not his family. Rescuers are now lying on debris with their ears to the ground to trace any sound of life left under the piles of rubble. Hopes are fading fast to find anyone alive as 72 hours have passed since the earthquake of 7.8 magnitude struck Turkey and Syria on Monday. Sometimes they are lucky to find a life and are able to pull the person out, but now, more often, they are not. Locals working side by side with the international rescue teams have not given up hope despite the ticking clock tipped heavily against their success. They are still searching and working hard to reach out to save any possibility of life in Turkey and Syria.
This is how the world comes together. You have the Turkish police and the Indian army. They are operating together. Doctors from India, from Turkey, from other parts of the world. Rescue teams virtually from across the world. They're all racing against time in an effort to save lives. It's been more than 3 days now. Turkish President Erdogan, he traveled to some of the quake-hit areas. Life's extremely tough. We've showed you the ground situation. In some instances, people have lost their homes. Electricity, of course, this is a hospital, so you have electricity here with generators are being used. But there is no electricity since most of the cabling is underground. That's been disrupted. Water supply is disrupted. People don't have homes anymore. It's already about 2 degrees right now. At night, it'll be a couple of degrees below zero. And that is where people face the real hardship. They're either living in their cars or out in the open with no shelter. In some instances, there are some temporary shelters in tents, but then people don't have a home. There is no electricity, there's no water, there is no security, there is no food. There is perhaps in some instances only hope of a better tomorrow. In some instances, not even hope.
This is the satellite image of Kahramanmaraş in South Turkey on 26th of July 2022. An earthquake of 7.8 magnitude turned the same city into pounds of rubble in 8th Feb satellite images. Images from the epicenter of the capital city of Hatay province, Antakya, reveal striking destruction caused by the earthquake on 6th. At Nurdagi of Gaziantep province, it's the same story of all reduced to piles of rubble at a stroke of Mother Nature's fury.
Çevre Şehircilik Bakanlığımız olarak
According to the latest findings, the number of our citizens who lost their lives in the earthquake has reached over 14,000. The number of injured is more than 63,000. As you can see here, the debris removal work continues at full speed.
İnşallah inşa etmek.
The combined death toll of Turkey and Syria has crossed 17,000. City after city, across the borders, it is the same story of utter destruction. While the Turkish president has acknowledged problems with the initial emergency response, the harsh winter weather also delayed the rescue operation in the early crucial hours. As per the Disaster Management Agency, more than 110,000 rescue personnel were working around the clock, and more than 5,500 vehicles, including tractors, cranes, bulldozers and excavators have been deployed in clearing the rubble. A 2-year-old baby was pulled out by the Israeli rescue team in Kahramanmaraş. In Antakya, after 77 hours, a 65-year-old man and his daughter were freed from under the debris.
Son tespitlere göre
While the damage assessment is underway, in this transition moment, we will reward our citizens with economic help of 10,000 liras. With this kind of support, we want at least to elevate their problems a little bit.
yaralılarımızın sayısı ise 63.794.
Hundreds and thousands of survivors left homeless are now living in shelters. The dipping temperatures make their survival even more challenging.
Yapılacak olan hasar tespitle birlikte
Our goal with the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization is to reconstruct the demolished structure within a year as 3- and 4-story buildings.
nakdi yardım yapacağız.
More and more relief materials like tents, beds and blankets are pouring in from different parts of the world to help Turkey and Syria cope up with the disaster and harsh weather as the rescue operations continue.
As long as there is life, there is hope. As far as these images go, Indians and people here in Turkey, it's the common word, dost. What's being undertaken here is Operation Dost. It's to bring the people of the two countries together because a friend in need is truly a friend indeed. But the challenge remains immense. We will continue to report from ground zero in Turkey. As of now, that is all. Camera person Kripal Singh and I have for you on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Over 3 decades, Business Today has delivered news, views and analysis like no other. Now, Business Today presents the future.
Could I request Mr. Arun Puri, our Editor-in-Chief, to come up on the stage with the Finance Minister as we unveil the anniversary issue of Business Today. This is the 31st anniversary of India's #1 news magazine.
BT produces a cover with an AI avatar of Pichan on its 31st anniversary issue. Visit businesstoday.in/subscribe and subscribe now.
Death, destruction, and miracle survivals. As rescue efforts crawl in the face of many obstacles, what's emerging in quake-ravaged Turkey and Syria are stories of human resilience. This 7-year-old girl shielded her young brother from the debris in a Syrian city for 17 hours. When rescue workers reached the two, she implored them to save them.
تلعبي ألعاب؟ لك شو؟ آلاء يا آلاء طلع أنا مع أنا ولا كلمة آلاء أحسن منك.
Finally, they made it out safely. In northern Syria, rescuers digging through rubble discovered a newborn girl who was still connected to her mother's umbilical cord. The baby survived, but her mother was pulled out dead from the ruins. Cold weather is hampering relentless rescue operations. Relief workers are racing against time to pull out survivors from rubble before they succumb to the weather and aftershocks. Meanwhile, the Indian Air Force has sent a 4th aircraft with relief material to Turkey. The Indian Army has also mobilized medical teams. New Delhi has rushed to help Syria as well.
Reiterate the solidarity of the Indian people and the government with the people of Syria. So we are also planning to send life-saving equipments and medical assistance and drugs at the earliest for the people of Syria who are affected by the tragic earthquake.
The Indian External Affairs Minister said the country stands with humanity while assuring help for the quake hit.
Those helps each other. And then, as I said, I used this expression first 2 years ago when Turkey sent 2 carriers loaded with medical assistance to India during COVID time. Now exactly the same happens in Turkey. So we are those, we are friends, and we help to each other. And we appreciate our help, of course.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome and very good evening, and thanks so much for being with us here on India Today. You're watching the Business Today show with me, Chaiti Narula. But let's begin with the top stories first. Stocks recover in the fag end to end on a flat note. Nifty closes the day marginally in the green in kissing distance of 17,900 levels. Sensex lifts from day's lows, ending the session at 140 points higher. Sell-off resumes in the Adani pack after index provider MSCI said it will review the free float status of the conglomerate's listed entities. Stocks took a beating while the flagship company Adani Enterprises trading with cuts of over 10%. Mutual fund data for the month of Jan continues to please the street. A 70% uptick in net equity inflows. SIP's inflows at an all-time high yet again in an otherwise weak market. AMFI chief NS Venkatesh tells Business Today that he expects the uptrend to sustain over the next 6 months. Entertainment giant Disney joins the layoff fray, announces 7,000 job cuts to meet cost-cutting requirements. Company chief Bob Iger calling the move necessary in order to address the current macro challenges. Ola expands its EV footprint with a brand new e-scooter, the Ola S1 Air, a variant of the previously launched S1 series. The competitively priced electric scooter is all set to hit the markets in July this year. And after 2 days of recovery, Adani Group shares were in the red again today. An impending decision by Morgan Stanley to review the group's participation and the weightage in the highly influential MSCI Global Market Index spooked investors who were lapping up the stocks after their tumble. 9 of the 10 Adani packed stocks ended in red today in the trading session.
For someone just emerging from one of the worst stock hammerings ever, the review by Morgan Stanley Capital International, or MSCI, couldn't have come at a worse time. The investment research company decided to review the free float of the Adani Group. According to MSCI, it had received feedback from a range of market participants concerning the eligibility and free float of stocks associated with the Adani Group. It added that the characteristics of certain investors show they should not be designated as free float any longer. Free float is the part of share available for trading as compared with total outstanding shares. In most of the Adani companies, more than 60% stake is held by promoters, reducing the free float. Hindenburg Research had in fact questioned the authenticity of some shareholders currently categorized as public in the group companies. The MSCI Global Investable Market Indexes is considered a benchmark for global institutional investors like index funds, hedge funds, and exchange-traded funds to assign their allocations. 8 of the 10 Adani Group companies are included in the index with a combined weightage of 5.75%. Any review could jettison one or more of the companies or reduce their weightage. According to an estimate, if the weightage is halved, Adani stocks could see an outflow of up to $1.5 billion. The news of the MSCI review had an immediate impact on the Adani pack, with Adani Enterprises slipping 20% during trade. It managed to recover and closed 11% down. 5 of other 10 shares were at the lower circuit. Adani Wilmar was the only stock in the green, up 5%. The group ended up losing around 60,000 crore rupees in market cap today. Meanwhile, even a fortnight after Hindenburg allegations, the Adani controversy is being kept alive by political action in the parliament. The opposition has made the issue the spearhead of its attack on the government, ensuring that it will remain on hot coals for the near future. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
Staying with news coming in on the Adani front, India's apex court will hear a plea tomorrow seeking a court-monitored probe into the allegations against the Adani Group by Hindenburg Research. A petition for urgent hearing was filed before the bench headed by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud today. The petition has also sought directions to set up a special committee to oversee a policy for loans above 500 crore rupees to corporates. A separate plea filed on this Adani issue is also scheduled for hearing tomorrow. A quick look now at how the market fared today. Lackluster day of trade on Dalal Street as stocks struggle to find direction. Street-eyed key rate hike data from the Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, the sell-off in Adani Group stocks continues to dampen sentiment. Let's take a look at the benchmarks now, staging a recovery towards the fag end of the trading session to end in the green finally, almost flat in fact, Nifty if you see. Nifty ended the session with a meager 20-point uptick to settle very close to the 17,900 levels. A 140-point but rather flattish close on the Sensex was recorded as well, 60,806 points to be precise. A mixed bag of gains there on the Nifty today. Let's bring that on your screens as well. You've got Bajaj Finserv, Hindalco, HDFC Life, Asian Paints and IndusInd Bank all traded with gains upwards of 2% each. Now on the flip side, you had a whopping 11% cut on the Adani Enterprises stock as well. Just look at that. Adani Enterprises, Adani Port, followed by names like Ultratech, Hero Moto, Bajaj Auto and Maruti. Earlier today, my colleague Sakshi Batra caught up with Mustafa Nadeem, CEO at Epic Research, to understand the road ahead for the markets. Take a look.
And how are you reading through the developments in the Adani Group stocks? We do remember that last week was a free fall of sorts for all the stocks right there, considerable amount of wealth destruction. But in the last two trading sessions, about a 50,000 crores. And, we did see a market cap recovery also for some of the stocks right there. But again, today we did see overnight MSCI report coming in that they're going to be considering the free float right there. So, and we are awaiting that decision that may happen tonight as well. How are you looking at these developments and what would you really advise investors to do at this point in time? Because I believe in the last two trading sessions when about a 30% recovery came in on Adani Enterprises and Adani Ports as well, most of the investors were looking at an opportunity to buy again, thinking that perhaps the dust has settled on the entire issue. What is your take?
See, this is a good point. Like the MSCI review is there today. So the free float, they've given clear indication that the free float would not be considered. Adani shares free float would not be considered. So I think the investors and traders should stay away from the stock, those who have not taken position in the stock currently, because there would be a lot of dust, more dust to be settled in the Adani Group. But as far as those who have taken the position when there was a sharp fall, so I think this is a good exit opportunity for the traders and the investors, because they've seen an upside of 30 to 40% from the lows. But again, there should be cautiousness going forward in the Adani stock because other than MSCI, also like Adani Wilmar today, there was news. Although it turned out to be good news that the stocks have matched and it has again bounced back. But overall, there would be a lot of scrutiny going forward in the Adani stock, and so the advice is to remain cautious towards Adani Group shares, and those who have entered at the lows can take this opportunity to exit the stock going forward.
Okay. In terms of specific themes, you did mention that banks are somewhat looking positive and that is a sector that one should look at. What about the recovery in the IT space? I mean, this sector has been a big underperformer in 2022, but incrementally we are seeing some bounces right there. Is it the right time to look at fresh opportunities to get into the sector?
Yes, IT sector overall, the setup is very strong. And what we have seen is there was a lot of negative news flowing in the IT sector, which led to the downfall in the stocks. But overall, if you would see the fundamentals of the sector, the support of dollar index, I think the IT sector would rebound soon and we may see some good opportunities in IT sector. And I would say the investors should look towards the mid-cap IT space going forward because they have corrected in a big way and also their setup is very strong. So I think in the mid-size IT companies also the recovery would be far quick. It would be quick as compared to the leading IT stocks.
Inflows into equity mutual funds jumped 72% to 12,500 crore rupees. Higher equity inflows were aided by SIPs yet again that topped the 13,000 crore rupee mark for the fourth consecutive month. SIP inflows have come in at 13,586 crore rupees against 13,570 crore rupees in December. My colleague Sakshi Batra had the chance to quiz the AMFI chief NS Venkatesh to understand if the uptrend in the figure is sustainable going forward. Here's a slice from that conversation.
Will the momentum in the equity schemes really continue? Because, we've been off late hearing the views on preference of the debt funds because of the increasing rate hike cycle and the more attractive rates getting there, one can attract from the debt funds as well. So will the momentum in equity schemes continue?
We believe that the equity schemes momentum will be on an uptrend only. Because we believe that the budget has been a good budget. It is there for everybody, and in the budget capex is around 3 lakh crores which they have done, and the revenue deficit is at around 2.9% and fiscal deficit at 5.9%. I think it's a wonderful budget where it is a growth oriented budget. We believe that the economy will grow. If economy grows, equity is the right place to be in. So we will find that the equity schemes will be doing much better. On the debt schemes, as you have alluded to, the debt schemes, because we are on an interest rate tightening cycle, essentially the interest rates are being hiked, including yesterday in the monetary policy, 25 basis point hike had happened. So if we are looking at it from that angle, the investment into the long duration, medium duration, and all those schemes will take a little bit of a pause at this particular point of time. And once the interest rate peaks, then people will again come back into the debt schemes. So I believe from mid-April, you will see more flows coming back into the debt schemes.
Right. Since you talked about the budget, I wanted to take your view. The major changes have come into the personal tax regime, with the government looking at making the new tax regime with the changes more attractive. Most of the tax experts do believe that a large portion of the taxpayers who are still in the old tax regime would perhaps be now more attracted to actually shift towards the new tax regime, which will eventually be the default regime as well. But because of the removal of deductions and the exemptions, all of those investors who were forced to invest in mutual funds also, like, the ELSS schemes also, will there be any change right there? Or because of the culture that they have imagined, they have seen the kind of savings and the returns that they have seen, will they continue to grow despite being in the new tax regime?
The ELSS investments, if it is being put only for the deduction under ATC, then, and if we are moving into a new tax regime, in the sense that where there is no deductions allowable, there you could see a little bit of a challenge. But I would say that even now, people with the old schemes are still there, where the deductions are allowed, and the ELSS schemes are giving reasonably good returns because it has a lock-in of a 3 years period. So I think you will see a balanced flow into the ELSS scheme.
Okay, but is there any quantum that you have imagined because of this? What could get affected?
Not much. I don't see much getting affected at this particular point of time. Maybe a couple of years down the line, then maybe we'll have to see when the major portion of the people move into the new tax regime. Then maybe we'll have to see this.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, I think the inflows have actually continued for 23 straight months in the month of January, and that's a remarkable trend. What I want to understand from you is what can help this trend to sustain with two major triggers, budget and the RBI policy, even the Fed, rate hikes now behind us. What can really help all the investors to continue to put their focus in the markets and the equity investments, even though the markets are pretty, volatile at this current juncture?
If we look at it, the markets will look at the earnings potential of those corporates, and then take a view as to how much is the earnings that percentage that they can expect, and from there they will start putting money into the equity schemes. So we are seeing that the corporate earnings are all good corporate earnings. So to that much extent, the markets are positive at this particular point of time. So we believe that the trend of uptrend of investment into the equity mutual funds will continue for at least another 6 months.
Okay. SIP flows also, like you pointed out, they are at record high levels, 13,856 crores. That's remarkable. I think for the 3-4 consecutive months, we have been seeing these record numbers really being hit. What is the outlook here? Where do you see this number growing to?
In the short term, it will cross the 14,000 crores by March, and we should end the next financial year at least crossing the 15,000 crore.
Slipping to a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. Lots more coming up on the other side as well. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. A meeting of the GST Council scheduled next week is likely to be postponed now. Senior Finance Ministry sources told Business Today TV that the much anticipated meeting is likely to be rescheduled due to the unavailability of all stakeholders concerned. The agenda for the meeting includes levy of GST on online gaming, casinos and horse racing. The council comprises the Union Finance Minister and finance ministers from all states and is the apex body that takes a final call and decision on all GST-related matters. Let me straight go across to Karishma Adani now. Karishma, what are you picking up in terms of the schedule of the upcoming GST Council meeting? Especially, it's going to be interesting to see if they knock off the high taxes as far as horse racing is concerned, as a sport, or for that matter, even gaming and casinos are concerned.
Well, absolutely right. In fact, we bring the story to you that the GST Council schedule could, in fact, there could be a minor change in terms of the date because the GST Council, in fact, had recently put out in public domain that the next 49th Council meeting is going to be held on 18th of February this month. But we are picking up from our sources that there could be a slight delay in that because of the post-budget interaction schedule of Finance Minister, and also certain state ministers have requested for a date later on, that is after the 20th. We are also told that key priority issues are on agenda, so the council definitely wants to convene as soon as possible, maybe definitely before the end of this month.
Sports, when it comes to sports, the horse racing industry has faced a lot of problems because of the GST. The betting revenues for the clubs are declining as well, and the sport is really suffering a lot. And also, as we know, online gaming has been a priority for the GST Council. So what is the latest updates on these two fronts?
Well, yes, with the online gaming, what we're picking up is that it's unlikely that the GOM report could be taken up in this meeting also, because there has been a lot of discussion that has happened. In fact, if you remember, the GOM submitted the report, that is led by Meghalaya Chief Minister, submitted the report in December last year, but they could not come on a consensus in terms of the tax valuation. They, of course, support the idea of a 28% tax, but in what way? They'd left it for the GST Council to decide. Unlikely that the council would like to take this up in this meeting. If they do, then a decision is not likely expected in this council meeting. Besides that, the council is also, of course, considering to discuss on the formation of the appellate tribunal. GOM, which is headed by Haryana Deputy Chief Minister, had also submitted a report, so that is definitely likely to happen. In fact, GOM's decision on pan, masala and gutka is something that could not be taken up again in this upcoming council and will be considered 2 months later.
All right, thank you, Karishma, for bringing us that report. Let's now take a look at some of the top international business stories that are making headlines. Google parent Alphabet loses over $100 billion in market value. The shares of the company fell sharply on the Nasdaq exchange as Google's new experimental AI service Bard, which was developed to compete with Microsoft's ChatGPT, delivered inaccurate information in its promotional video. The Walt Disney Company is going to be slashing its workforce by 7,000 in a bid to cut operation costs by $5.5 billion. The video streaming platform of the company, Disney, saw 1% dip in its paid subscriber base in October-December quarter. The layoff accounts for almost 3% of its total workforce. The company CEO, Bob, also announced new restructuring plans for the company. Credit Suisse Group posts its worst annual loss since 2008 global financial crisis. The company hit hard by client withdrawals warned of further substantial losses this year. Battered by scandals, the Swiss bank saw a sharp acceleration in its withdrawals in the fourth quarter, with outflows of more than 110 billion Swiss francs, that equals to $120 billion US. South Korea fines German automakers Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen and Audi for using its softwares to rig diesel car emissions. The automakers have been fined with $33 million in South Korea. A statement released by Korea Fair Trade Commission said that Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen and Audi were involved in collusion that reduced competition and restricted consumer choices. taken its campaign of disinformation to another level. A report by New York-based cyber research firm has exposed how pro-Chinese news anchors purportedly created using advanced artificial intelligence were used as a part of an incredible information campaign. The expose has raised a basic question. Can we really trust what we see? Let's find out.
Time and again, China has tried to forcibly claim Indian land. Its naked ambitions in the South China Sea and Taiwan were never hidden. The dragon's expansionist plans in the region have the whole world taking notice. Even the US had to dispatch F-22 Raptors to shoot down a Chinese spy balloon over its territory. But never has the propaganda and misinformation spread by Chinese been this insidious or underhanded.
Hello everyone, this is Wolf News. I'm Alex. There have been more than 600 mass shootings in the United States this year.
The perfectly combed, bearded news anchor bashing the US government on issues like gun violence. In another video, a female news anchor lauds China's role on the global stage at an international summit meeting. Except something was wrong. The voices did not match the movement of their mouths, their hair were unnatural, and their faces pixelated. They were not real people. They were computer-generated avatars created by artificial intelligence software, distributed late last year by Chinese bots on Facebook and Twitter, marking the first use of deepfake technology for state-sponsored misinformation campaign. The deep deception marks a big shift in the Chinese strategy to spread its message in the West. A report says the new tech-powered spamouflage opens a new chapter in the information war. The two videos were reportedly posted at least 5 times by 5 accounts in the last week of November. The posts were then reshared by at least 2 more accounts, which appear to be a part of a pro-China network. Interestingly, the spamouflage videos did not receive more than 300 views, reflecting the video's relative failure in spreading the message.
Hello everyone, this is Wolf News.
This isn't the first time that deepfake videos have been used with a malignant intent. Last March, this video of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky surfaced, asking his troops to lay down arms and surrender. It was quickly taken down. Surprised at the Mission Impossible superstar stumbling his way through his house, these are also deepfake videos of Tom Cruise, which have created a sensation in the tech world.
As much as the momentum. Hey, listen up, sports and TikTok fans.
The creator Mike Fisher, however, went public with the knowledge and the technology, showing just how convincing his star avatar could be. For the Chinese, the agenda obviously is way more sinister, a tool to spread its propaganda in a very cost-effective manner. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
This is Wolf News.
Well, that's all that we have on this edition of the Business Today show, and that's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula. Keep watching India Today and don't forget to log on to indiatoday.in.